back and we are reading today. So I wanted to actually start with chapter 4. But then when I look at the book, I realize that actually the last pages of chapter 3 are so juicy. They have so much content to reflect on. And the beauty about them is that they then talk back to the theme of the book. Remember, the theme is what? Alone. And so you'll remember that this memo was written with me in retrospect. So I am reflecting. The memoir itself is written as a reflection of when I found myself living alone. And because I found myself living alone for the first time in my life, I then began recalling a lot of old stuff, a lot of trauma that I experienced. And I'm saying trauma with a small t. Yeah, there is a trauma with a capital T, which I'll get to, the loss of my business. But I'm recalling, and all those things are starting to resurface because I was finally living alone. So that is the genesis of how the book started being written. And why is it that it is also titled Alone? And I spoke about the title in one of the videos, but just to remind you, especially if you are new and you just discovered this channel, you just stumbled upon this video. My name is Lebo Pule. I'm an author, a memoirist. I've written 2 memoirs, both titled Alone, one growing up in Alexandra and Alone from Hustling to Healing. I'm also a life coach and a teacher. And so the title name, the name Alone, is not the weird, sad, abandoned, alone in the dark and the cold. It's not that. It is alone that speaks to the fact that each and every one of us, even you listening to me now, you are experiencing your life alone. We could go to the same place, go to the same school, even grow up in the same family, but we will come up with different experiences of our childhood. We will write completely different memoirs. We will share our experiences very differently because we walk this place alone. It is not this alone of saying you have no friends, you have no partner, you are alone, not that one. Because even when you have a partner, and even when you are happy, even when you have friends, no one can truly, truly know what is going on with you and how you truly feel. So that is the Alone title. And I thought I should reiterate it in case you just stumbled upon this video, or even if you knew, just to remind you what the title is. It's not really a fair alone. Also, so when I read the book, when I read again, and I'm like, no, I'll be doing a disservice if I just go onto chapter 4 and get into the issues, the traumas. Let me read here because, I mean, I love how this paragraph starts. Now that I have all this space and I was living alone. And then I read through and I thought, oh, okay, let me actually read and then reflect a little bit some more. I'm tempted to read the entire thing, which is about, no, I don't think I will. Let's see where I end up. Let's see where I end up because almost each paragraph has some reflections, but not too long, just some short reflections. Let's see how far I go. Okay, classes. Or maybe let me try the other ones today. Let's try the other ones. Oh, God. But I like those ones. They're much better. So, yeah, okay, this one's much better. All right, reading. Still chapter 3, so I'm just continuing, and I'm now in the reflective space. Now that I had all this space and I was living alone, I gave myself time to make sense of my rescuer syndrome, the rescuer syndrome that I've already shared with you. Thinking back, I recognized that though I did not consciously look for men who were in need of my help, I consciously avoided those that didn't. I remember saying that I did not want to date anyone who is established and accomplished because he would want to control me. I had issues, guys. I had issues when I was young. The truth is that I feared that they would not need me. It was very important for me to be needed because I did not think that I had any value as I was. I wanted to start from the bottom with someone so that we can build something together, contribute equally to each other's successes and lives. However, despite this, I still gravitated towards those who needed lots and lots of help, the parasitic types. And I did rescue a few. And by a few, I mean 3. Is that a lot? Is that a lot? Like any needy person, once they had received the help they needed, they simply moved on. This tended to leave me feeling bitter and resentful. Or I would not be happy with the newly confident, restored man, and I would find ways to chase him away, which also would leave me with the same feelings of bitterness and resentment. Now, this is big. This is great. and this is big. What was happening here, and I do want to read further, but what was happening here, when you have a particular pattern, when there is a pattern in your body that loves a particular way, like for example, I loved to rescue men. I mean, imagine guys consciously avoiding a lawyer or an engineer or an accountant, someone, and they would ask me out. I mean, I think I was cute, even though I had my own issues and baggages, and I wouldn't, those would not be my types. My types would be anyone who would need me. But here's the interesting part. And this is why healing is so important, because healing and therapy uncovers a lot of things that you personally don't see. All you see is just a pattern, just a continuous pattern. But deep down, it's actually a trauma of some sort, something that needs you to see it, because the only way a pattern stops, or the only way healing works, is if you see it. You bring it up to the surface and you see it. So I did not see that I am attracting the most neediest. My body would know that this is my type, and my body would reject. And by body, I mean energetic body. I don't mean chemistry necessarily. I just mean the nervous system, because the nervous system will recognize your pattern before your logic will recognize it. And speaking of logic, there was a stint that I did. There was a time where I sort of had a fling with someone who was not necessarily my type. Remember, my types were the needy ones. And I sabotaged the whole thing. And we'll get into it as the reading continues. I sabotaged it because this is not what I'm used to. This is not what the nervous system is used to. This is not home. Home for me was a guy who somehow reminds me of my father. He does not necessarily have to be abusive like my dad, but he has to have elements of what my father had. And my father and my mom had a co-dependent relationship where, to a very large extent, if not the whole extent, my mom just continuously rescued my dad. My mom was the provider at home, even though my dad worked, but my dad was comfortable working as a laborer. And my mom was the one that was striving and achieving and just always been the provider. So I was enacting home. I was recreating home then, not now. And you will continue to recreate home, or you recreate the familiar, for as long as you don't go for healing, for as long as you don't address this. And going for healing does not necessarily only mean go to therapy or only go to a coach. It could also mean joining a particular group. There's a lot these days. I mean, you can join someone here. You can learn here, right here on YouTube, and follow some steps. There's a lot you can do. But the important thing, the big thing, is that you have to see it first. You have to see the pattern. You have to recognize the pattern. Only then can you heal the pattern. Are we together? Does that make any sense? Shall I read further and see another theme? So I have since dropped the rescuer syndrome. I mean, I have shared this already in an earlier video, but traces of it always show up, because it's very hard to, or rather, it takes a while to get rid of something that is so entrenched, that is so childhood. It takes a while. It takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of self-love. It takes a lot of self-awareness. It takes a lot of conscious and deliberate action of saying, this is who I am becoming, or this is who I am. Whenever the inner child that wants to rescue some dude raise its ugly head. The old me, the 49-year-old me, has to come up and say, Nana, listen, we are 49. And there is no need for us to be looking after an old person or an old man. Everything is fine. Everything is fine. Settle down. Luckily, one does not have to do that often anymore. Okay, shall I continue reading? Let's continue reading. Classes. All right, let's continue. Living alone brought with it varied events. I found myself enjoying dinners for one at restaurants. I used to love restaurants. One thing about living in a small dorpy is that it will clean you out of your addiction to restaurants. I used to love going to restaurants, and I think it was kind of an addiction. I found myself enjoying dinners for one at restaurants. It fascinated me that male waiters tried to keep me company whenever they were not tending a table, some even trying to chat me up. I suppose it made them uncomfortable to see a woman sitting alone, eating prawns or a medium rare steak. Yeah, no, I'm that girl. I'm a foodie. I'm a foodie and I complain. I'm the complainer at restaurants. If things are overcooked or if I said medium rare and it is medium to well, yeah, I'm not, I'm that girl that will want to see the chef. Makes me think of another friend. I thought I was bad until I met a friend of mine, a former colleague who became a very good friend, and he's an equal foodie like me. We are both master chef lovers, and we just love food. And he was worse than me at restaurants, so we were just a bit of a nightmare. I think we were living it was our inner. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm gonna butcher this guy. Inner Gordon Ramsay. Anyway, I digress. Let me continue. Let me start where I left. Let me continue. I suppose it made them uncomfortable to see a woman sitting alone eating prawns or a medium rare steak. I would always politely tell them that I was happy to be on my own, whenever they would ask about things like, in Hlezwiwan. I think it was just an odd sight. I still don't understand why it's an odd sight to see someone sitting alone at a restaurant. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. And I think it's perfectly fine. And come to think of it, even before the whole alone thing, going alone to a restaurant for a coffee or lunch was something I would retreat to. I would always just find it comforting, even when I still lived with my kids and I would be in a relationship. But restauranting alone, even going to a movie alone was something that I would do. So I always found it interesting that people can't do that. I would politely tell them that I was happy to be on my own, that they should not worry about me, and that I needed time alone to quietly enjoy my dinner or my lunch. Sometimes the manager of the restaurants would be the one trying to strike a conversation with me, but this was merely to ensure, I think, that I could afford to pay whatever I had ordered, something I never experienced when I had a male companion, obviously. And I think this was probably me just being feminist about it. A manager would come and check if everything is okay. I don't know. In retrospect, now I think back, I mean, I'm older now and I'm thinking maybe I overread that. Maybe I was overthinking that. Maybe a manager was just looking after a customer and a customer who's sitting alone for that matter, um, make her feel comfortable and all that. So the whole thing of ensuring if I could pay the bill, I don't know. I think I might have been a little feminist about it. It intrigued me when couples would sit next to me in a restaurant. The whites kept to themselves. However, the black couples would show some discomfort upon realizing that I was indeed there alone. One evening, a black couple came in as I was sitting down. I saw them whispering in a way that was clear that they were talking about me. Soon after, the woman came to me with a big smile. I actually remember that lady. She was so pretty, very, very tall and dark, and just Chimamanda type of looks, very exotic looks. I saw them whispering in the way that was clear that they were talking about me. Soon after, the woman came to me with a big smile and a friendly demeanor and said, "Don't worry, watla, utla fitla, maybe ustakile for trafficking. Don't worry, he will be here. He's probably stuck in traffic." I wanted to ask her, Mang, Mang, who? But out of politeness, I said, thank you for caring. I hope so too. Throughout the evening, she kept checking on me, making hand signals, pointing to the wrist, to indicate her shock that so much time has passed. She would make phone call signals to inquire whether my non-existent date had called. I mean, you can picture it like she would be there and she'd be like, you know. It was actually quite sweet. Again, in retrospect, she was quite sweet. Um, She would make phone signals to inquire whether my non-existent date had called. I thought it was sweet. Stereotypical, yes, in a way, she, pended towards the system that, there has to be a date and you can't be sitting there alone. But sweet nonetheless. Her partner did not once look at me. Perhaps it was the guilt that one of his own had dropped me. When they left, she asked me for my number. She said she had someone in mind for me and I should dump this loser. I gave her a wrong number. Yeah, shame on me for that, but I gave her a wrong number. But I wasn't looking. I was in an alone space. I wanted to be alone. I was in a healing space. I was enjoying myself. I was enjoying my company. I was enjoying my work. I was working at Regenesis. I was in a very interesting space, which is why the whole alone thing, if you can do it, if you can afford to live alone, or if you are currently living alone and you're dreading it and you're hating it, just give it a chance. Like lean into it and see what it brings up for you. Because when I look back, and I was living alone, I was 32. I lived alone 32, 33, 34. Then, things changed again and I moved back home for completely different reasons, which I'll get to, especially when I get to read book two. And it was the best time of my life, of my healing. And I think this Bupule that you are experiencing here, that is reading for you here, was literally birthed there in Boksburg, next to Benoni, when I was 32 in 2008, 2009, 2010. Those were my alone days, and those were the best, best times of my life. So let me just continue with this paragraph. I did not need new friends nor to be hooked up. I became a regular at a small yet very stylish Italian restaurant. Oh, Italian restaurants, one of my friends likes to say that maybe I'm Italian inside in terms of how I just absolutely love Italian food. And also even the way I cook is very, very Italian. Lots of tomatoes, lots of basil, lots of very Italian cooking. So, one day, maybe when I start a restaurant, it will be Italian restaurant. Okay. I became a regular at a small yet stylish Italian restaurant in Boksburg. I did not need to order. They knew exactly what I wanted. As soon as I was sitting down, my favorite drink and meal would follow. I mean, I used to love Alfredo. You can't go wrong with a well done spaghetti bolognese. I would also just love their antipasti. And I just loved their lasagna at that Boksburg. And I wonder if that restaurant is still there. I doubt it though, because a lot has changed. Around East Rand Mall, there's a lot of changes there. But yeah, just as I'm reading this, memories, it's taking me really, really back to those days. So I did not need to order. Just by sitting down, my favorite drink and meal would follow. The manager and owner, a handsome Italian man, would always make small talk with me. Maybe some politics of the day, my career, or his world travels. But none of this stereotypical nonsense such as, when are you getting married? Where's your man? Or how many children I had. One evening, as I left the restaurant, he told me how much he admired me. That simple, unassuming statement moved me to tears, even now. Even now, and I don't know why. I think it was the sincerity of it all. But I think it was also a recognition. He probably recognized the healing or something. But to this day, I was standing up. I remember I was standing up and I had just finished paying. I went to the loo and then I was getting out to get into my car. And he's, hey, Lebo, I really admire you. You had to be there. It was a profound, profound moment for me. Let me leave it here because I'm seeing that the next theme is a theme that we need to talk about. It's also just another paragraph. I'd like to read it and just reflect on it with you. So maybe let's leave it here for today. And this is my story, and I cannot wait to hear yours.